Раз, два. Всем привет. Добрый вечер, коллеги. Спасибо, что собрались. Приветствую вас на очередной встрече с формата серии BVenture, которую мы проводим при поддержке Агентства США по международному развитию в рамках проекта BVenture, направленный на развитие изменения стартапа и венчурной экосистемы Беларуси. Сегодняшним нашим гостем, спикером выступит Гитенис Галкис, глава Ассоциации бизнес-ангелов Литвы. Гитенис второй раз уже в Минске, если не больше. И у нас только уже второй раз. Да, он был в начале февраля, кто-то его мог уже видеть, слышать, общаться, кто-то впервые познакомиться. Гитенис чуть дальше сам расскажет про формат, как он, сколько времени займет презентация, когда можно задавать вопросы, ответы там, или чай, кофе можно брать и в процессе. Но изначально хочу дать слово нашему бизнес-ангелу, нашему и литовскому бизнес-ангелу, да, Кириллу Голубю, который с короткой презентацией.
Добрый вечер, коллеги. Я не буду долго занимать ваше время и отнимать время у нашего спикера. Спасибо Евгению. Я хочу чуть-чуть подробнее сказать о том, что делает Гитенис и его коллеги и почему для нас это важно. Неожиданно для меня, как для человека, который много лет занимается IT-бизнесом, но более-менее из понятной и традиционной сферы, не относящейся к венчурной, неожиданно оказалось, что в венчурной деятельности кросс-бордер отношения имеют очень большую роль. Несмотря на то, что и у россиян, и у белорусов, и у поляков, и у прибалтов, в том числе литовцев, в первую очередь литовцев, венчурная деятельность очень похожа, но в каждой стране, оказалось, есть свой нюанс, за который коллег уважают, почему ими интересуются, соответственно, и почему многие ездят друг к другу в гости. В Беларуси это, в первую очередь, конечно, особый режим парка высоких технологий, и во вторую очередь, но, наверное, не менее важно, тот факт, что в Беларуси действительно много продвинутых проектов, и много специалистов действительно мирового, на данный момент уже мирового уровня. Одновременно совершенно и Литбен, и Белорусская ассоциация Angels Band стартовали. Литовские коллеги обогнали нас на 1 месяц, потому что у нас задержалась регистрация. Мне повезло, по приглашению Гитениса я стал одним из founding members Литбан. И с тех пор наблюдаю очень внимательно за тем, что происходит у наших литовских коллег. Должен вам сказать, не в обиду нашему гостю, что наши успехи ничуть не меньше, чем успехи прибалтов и литовцев в частности. Поэтому нам тоже есть чем поделиться в плане успехов и есть о чем рассказать. Послезавтра в кафе «Нетто» на Красной, номер 13, будет заключительное мероприятие года этого Angels Band, на котором мы послушаем питчи 8 новых проектов. Если Гитенис вдруг будет еще в Минске, я буду рад приветствовать его на нашем мероприятии. Вот, поэтому все, что происходит в белорусской венчурной экосистеме, у белорусских бизнес-ангелов, вы сможете узнать 19-го, придя на мероприятие. А сегодня я с удовольствием передаю слово и микрофон нашему уважаемому гостю.
Спасибо. Добрый вечер. Я буду презентацию делать на английском, мне так намного легче, но, пожалуйста, прерывайте и задавайте вопросы на русском. Я буду стараться ответить на русском, так что только если можете, прерывайте, поднимайте руку и заводим дискуссию, так будет интереснее для всех, чем просто идти через мою презентацию. Не работает клик. Все работает. So very briefly about me and why am I here. So in Lithuanian, and this presentation will be about the Lithuanian startup ecosystem and review of 2018. But I really don't like to look backwards, but rather to the future. So I would like to see what has changed and what will have impact in 2019. So first, very important thing to mention, what Lithuania didn't have, and I'm in the ecosystem as mentioned already 5 years, it didn't have the full ecosystem to probably, and it will be full only next year. By meaning full ecosystem, I mean all the players that we see in US, in UK. So Lithuania in 2017 or in the beginning of 2018 did not have a business angel network. From 2016 to 2017, Lithuania did not have proper accelerators that would help startups. Most of the venture funds did their own pre-acceleration before that and then only invest. So it was a bit strange. In some sort of deals that we also see in Litban today, the deals are kind of vice versa. So venture capital funds invested where angels should have invested, and now they try to catch up because there's a gap in the market, or was a gap partly in Lithuania, so venture capital is trying to catch up. And I will go through a bit more about that. So how did I ended up in the ecosystem? I did 2 of my own startups, then started with several partners, Danish partners that live in Lithuania, Blue Lime Labs, and we helped or tried to face the gap of pre-acceleration, acceleration, and as we call it, we tried to co-found startups. So we did 2 investments in Denmark and helped them establish office in Lithuania, and 2 investments in Lithuanian startups. And this really brought me to establishing Lithuanian Business Angel Network, because one of the startups tried to raise further funding and was not able to find the venture capital. It was too early. So the first investment after us came from Latvian Business Angel Network. And that actually showed, okay, why Latvians invest, why Estonians have so much activity, and where is Lithuania? Why is this gap? Isn't there any angels around in Lithuania, or is it difficult to track them down? And what is the cost level for them to actually have the deal flow, how people do approach them, and basically talking to different people and being in the ecosystem, it was a good starting ground to establish Litban, and I will tell a bit more about that. And currently, so this is more plans for 2019, but already started, together with the same Danish partner and 1 French partner, we are establishing 70 Ventures, which will be an accelerator and a seed fund in Lithuania. So I will also present a bit more what is going to happen there. So one of the anomalies, I'm not sure how big was it in Belarus, but in Lithuania at some point it was the 3rd country by capital raised through initial coin offerings after China and US. That was a huge anomaly from a country with less than 3 million people. So there was 35 initial coin offerings launched, and which raised over $500 million within a year and a half. So it's starting 2017 and ending mid-18, somewhere around that. So during this, from this project, probably the most project that has raised the most was 150 million, and downwards. So it's an extreme example of what happened when venture capital was not active, and everyone tried to do a crypto something. Doesn't matter if it worked, it didn't work. It served as pre-seed, and people just poured money into the market. So as a result, now a lot of good developers are hired, and currently it's not clear how this will develop further, especially with this steep downturn in crypto pricing. So I believe it's an anomaly because there was no reasoning value behind those companies that got funded like this. So to date, and this is the data from Startup Lithuania, we have a database of around 500 known startups. At least Startup Lithuania as an organization, governmental agency, knows that number. And also we have this program called Startup Visa, which receives around 250 applicants, or through its lifetime has received. But there's not so much actually continuing the process and processing. So if we compare it, probably the most interesting comparison for me is to compare it with Estonia. And Estonians are again ahead with this. Probably it's also, my assumption would be that it's in relation to the e-residency and Estonia being well branded as the startup country. So 2018 was a very big year for a government agency called Invega to actually be the anchor investor in many funds. So we didn't have pre-seed, and by pre-seed I mean acceleration and very early stage investments. So it's planned from the upcoming year, from 2019, that this gap will be filled with around 20 million. It's not per year, but for the upcoming 3 to 5 years. Then seed investors that venture capital firms that are planning to invest in seed and late seed are together around 180 million euros for the upcoming 5 years. And then there's some capital from growth and Series A, which I will not cover that much in this presentation. So what has happened or changed in the incubator space? So there's quite a few, and it's quite surprising for me as well that they're still opening and are very active in the market. So Business Hive is located in Vilnius, and it's mostly around hardware technology. It's an interesting space, and they are working or helping startups. To my knowledge, they're not actively investing. Then there is a bank, a Swedish bank, SEB, which has launched in March their innovation hub. All Lidban activities are actually in partnership with SEB, so they're sponsoring or becoming our member. By becoming our members, we are able to use their facilities and premises. So their idea is very, I guess, mostly based around marketing and fostering innovation. So they have a very nice co-working space, very nice conference facilities, and they offer it free of charge to ecosystem builders. I'm not sure how long will it last free of charge, but at least for now they do it as branding. And also there were several articles on SEB to plan to invest a few $100,000 into startups that are in their relationship to the bank strategy. Then there's a few incubators located in Kauna. So Kauna Science and Technology Park, which is mostly around technology in Kaunas, and then there is KTU Startup Space, which is a university tech hub, and most of the companies, at least that I know that are there, come from the university. Then we have, as Lithuania at least had for now, a very big outsourcing center of Barclays, which is now being closed and shifted somewhere else. So a lot of people are hopefully will move to startups, and the 500 number will increase. But Barclays has also one of the centers, Rise Vilnius, focused on fintech, very similar to SEB, not so open, probably because they were the first ones, and they offer co-working space and venues. Then the biggest technology park that we have is Vilnius Tech Park, called Sapiegos. They're in a very, very nice area, in a park, actual park, and there was a historical hospital. So the historical hospital was renovated, and now there's a lot of offices, Lithuanian Google offices there, many venture capital firms are located there, bigger startups are located there. So it's a very big tech hub. Yes?
By the way, what does the logo mean? Is it a cloud, rainy cloud, or
plugged in, I guess.
Power supply plug?
Power supply plug, cloud, probably yes. Then with all the ICOs, Lithuania or Vilnius got some people invested in establishing blockchain center in Vilnius. I am not really actively involved with them, so I cannot elaborate on their activity, but from what I hear, they're mainly focused on helping blockchain companies have a conversation with the government and utilize the technology in different areas. So they're kind of entry point to the world of blockchain and connecting them to China and other countries. So I think they have, through investing and working with blockchain, they have the knowledge helping this type of businesses. And then we have Sunrise Valley, which probably out of all of those is one of the oldest ones. And it's located in another a bit further area, university area. And they closely work with the university. They have a co-working space, and they offer offices for a bit more developed startups. Then it's very important to mention the three very relevant government agencies. So Startup Lithuania, mainly focused on working with startups, helping founders attract capital and proactively showing the path where the startup should go. Then MITA, it's an agency for technology startups, and this organization actually gives out grants to startups that are doing some breakthrough technology development. So it's mostly related on the connection with the universities and research and development. And then we have IMAGURU, which is another agency that works mostly with banks, venture capital, Lithuanian business angel networks, and it is fostering the arm of investments into startups through different favorable initiatives for venture capital and business angels. So what has happened in the acceleration and pre-seed investment, which in the beginning of the year was totally vacant, and then Baltic Sandbox has been established. To my knowledge, they do not invest capital, they just help with mentorship and run a program, pre-acceleration and acceleration program. And then together with this IMAGURU agency, IMAGURU or the government said that, okay, we see a gap in the market, there's no pre-acceleration or acceleration, and venture capital is lacking, or angels are lacking investments into startups or quality startups. So we will give 14 million euros to 2 accelerators. And there was a big tender running for basically just finished now, of selecting 2 accelerators that will run and accelerate companies and invest in companies in Lithuania. So most of you might know Startup Wise Guys. They originate from Estonia. They ran a batch now in Latvia. And in 2019, they are planning to come to Lithuania, and they will be operating an acceleration program and a fund as well. And with my colleagues, we have won the second tender with 70 ventures. And I will describe what kind of program we'll run as well, so you can ask more questions on that. So then early stage investors, there's quite a few. So co-investment fund that invests together with angels. In a way, angels have to approach co-investment fund, and then co-investment fund leverages angel investments. And I will tell a bit more about the terms. So both Litban and co-investment fund work hand in hand. They are good partners. Then we have Open Circle Capital, which is in a way a new fund and very active. They did quite a lot of investments this year. I think they are planning to close few more even this year, and continue the very active work in the upcoming years. They actually focus on quite early stage investments and do syndicated deals. Most of them do syndicated deals with angel investors. Then Contrarian is corporate arm venture capital. So Lithuanian Energy, an energy company, has put a tender as well for fund managers, and has invested several million into Contrarian, or became a limited partner there, in order to invest in and foster the development of energy sector innovation. Then probably one of the oldest ones in this list is Practica Capital, which has been operating since 2011, 2012 onwards, and has ran one fund, and they're now raising and or already have raised and are launching the second one. So 2019 should start with several Practica Capital investments. Then another new fund is called Iron Wolf Capital. They're as new as you cannot find the logo yet. So they're very new, and we'll see how it goes. They have not made any investments yet, but we'll see. And then very recently, probably a week ago, Business Angel Fund 2 has just launched, and ran by Arvidas Trumskis. And they are even, I think, older than Practica Capital, or ran together, like basically the same investment period. So they're starting now as well, and they do also investments together with angels. That's why it's called Business Angel Fund. They are also a partner of Lithuanian Business Angel Network. So as you can see, there's quite a bunch of capital and investors, different type of investors with different type of investment strategies. And I believe the 500 startups should actually grow in numbers. So our Ministry of Economy has a perception that by 2020 or by 2021, the goal would be to have at least 1,000 companies. So very ambitious goal. We don't know if there will be so much people actually joining the space or quality people joining the space. So that would be more important. So maybe some questions from this part. If not,
The reason of creating Business Angels Fund.
Business Angel. What's the reason?
Yes, what's the reason of creating a fund where funding source is Business Angels money? I know that in Nordic countries and in Baltic countries as well, most of funding sources are pension funds, government funds, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But what's for Business Angels as a source of money for the fund? Is it natural or unnatural thing?
It's difficult to say. I have not seen it anywhere else. So there are, of course, groups of business angels that combine money and then do investments. But to my understanding, Business Angel Fund works a bit differently. So one of the it's a fund, so there's limited partners. And the main limited partner is also the government agency, as well as probably some private individuals or companies at that matter. But their investment strategy is to focus and make investments together with angel investors. So Open Circle Capital has a different name, but their strategy is also to be open and attract co-investors. So it's basically the naming, and probably Arvidas would know better how to explain this. Or maybe it's also legacy from the first one.
Okay, so please one more question from me. Most of funds are focused on local startups. When we speak on Finnish funds, most of them require to establish your company in Finland and maybe in Estonia. What about Lithuanian funds?
So Practica Capital is actually focused on the Baltic states. They plan maybe to do most of the investments in Lithuania, but also focus in Latvia and Estonia. I'm not sure about the other funds, but to my knowledge, they also want to attract companies from other countries. But there is a limitation. Since there's government money, there should be proven benefit to Lithuania. So the company, either some employment in Lithuania, so basically they want to get their money back through taxes. And in the strategy, at least in our fund strategy, we presented that we are welcoming companies from abroad and have a small focus in the Nordic region, and also a focus in Ukraine, Belarus, and other countries on this side of Lithuania. So we would like to invest in them, but there's also some kind of complexity for the founders. They have to move, they have to establish, and we have to prove the benefit to Lithuania. So in practicalities, we don't know yet how it will go. So I guess as a priority, it will be local companies. Any more questions? Okay, so as it was already mentioned, we are established one month earlier than Belarusian Business Angel Network, and I think the whole development is going hand in hand, in some cases without ruining, with government money spoiling the angel investors. You can move much faster than us. So what we have achieved, so far we have 68 members. Most of them are from Lithuania, but we have all the Baltic countries. We have Belarus, we have Denmark, we have Finland, and we have Japan as members. And we have 9 corporates that have joined with their corporate executives. So how our pipeline had looked so far, so it's around 140 startups that have applied for investments in Lithuania. 34 after the selection committee, 34 have presented, of which 17 has received interest. The problem is that 17 have received interest, but the angel investors only took 3 to 5 companies further into the due diligence process. So somewhere it broke down within 17. So there were 1 person or 2 persons saying, I want to invest into this company, and it didn't develop further. So the 2 or 3 companies, the 3 companies that I know are dragging from the midsummer, because they are in discussions with this government agency fund in order how to finance, how to do due diligence, and how to agree on the agreement. And this is a bit dragging along. So I think being more proactive without needing to discuss it with the government agency, this might be a faster process within Belarusian Business Angel Network. Yeah, largest syndicate that we have is 25 people. So that was incredibly to manage, small ticket sizes and small investment, but we ran it as an educational program.
By the way, how do you structure deals with such a large number of ventures?
Okay, so what we did is Litban established this as an educational program, and we took one SPV, UAB, and put 3 lead angels. So the SPV belonged to 3 angels, and then we created a loan agreement with a special formula on further future distributed proceeds interest. So it would not be a fixed interest, but basically on the proceeds in the case of an exit. And then those 22 angel investors became loan givers to this company. And then it was structured like this. So the chosen lead investor or the director has all the rights to make the decision on behalf of the lenders. And this was the structure. So once we started, we had 4. Yeah, yes?
So you create this structure. Per every company per every investment in company, the single structure is created, or it's created once, and then through this structure you invest in multiple companies.
This structure was created only for the educational purpose for angel investors to do one very small deal. What we recommend, this structure can be used for further investments. So not the same, probably a separate SPV, because probably not all 25 will want to invest.
So a new SPV per investment?
Per investment. There are also other ways, depending on how many angels are there.
And since I'm on mic right now, there was a previous slide about the countries that
Yes.
the representatives of which are involved in the business angel investment, and there was Japan mentioned there.
Yes.
So again, there are private people registered as business angels in the organization, and if they show some interest in the investment in the particular company, this SPV is created and the investment is structured through the SPV.
We don't create an SPV. So the angel investor comes to a startup and says, okay, I like you, you pass the due diligence, I want to invest in you. And then he decides whether he wants to create an SPV, whether he wants to do it through his holding company, whether he wants to do as a private individual. So there are many options, but the investor decides, not the business angel network. To understand, business angel network is just an intermediary to help startups meet angel investors and angel investors meet startups and reduce the cost in meetings. So if business angels create a standardized shareholder agreement, they don't need to go to a lawyer every time, but rather can share it amongst themselves, adjust it, and agree with the startup.
So basically, this is a networking club where which is provide the capability for the startups to meet with the potential investors, and then however they will structure their deal is up to them, case by case.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So just continuing on this, so as objectives of the business angel network, it's deal flow creation, education. So there are quite a few, what we saw in Lithuania, there are quite a few first-time angel investors, and they really are afraid of making this first deal, and they require a bit of coaching, expertise from abroad to actually massage them through the process. And then what we offer as well, networking. So some of the syndicates would never happen before the people have never met before, and they start working, seeing each other in the network. That's how we see that the network has a very good positive effect. And then bringing structure, what I mentioned with contracts, with helping this syndication contracts, helping establishing an SPV. So the education program was called Event Fund Training Program. We had in the education part one Danish angel investor with I think 25 angel investments, and he runs a very, very interesting masterclass. And then an Estonian president of Estonian Business Angel Network, Crane, who talked about how he's building a portfolio. Yes?
Is he a
I don't know that.
Looks like these.
Maybe. I don't know. So then the network effect ramps up through business angel trips, large syndicates. Then we have attracted a partner called Global Lithuanian Leaders, who actually brings access to our startups. So startups that apply to Litban can also meet mentors, global Lithuanian expats that are living in Dubai and New York and so on, to actually bounce their ideas off them and see whether they can help to actually bring or scale the startup in those markets. And then we're part of the Nordic Business Angel Network, which helps us, or we are partnering with Danish Business Angel Network, Estonian Business Angel Network. And if you apply to Litban, you can also checkmark that Estban and Danban would see your application as well. And that's how we are fostering cross-border investment into startups. So structure of sharing, I will not go very in detail, but what we try to achieve throughout the next year is to have a standardized term sheet template, syndicate shareholder agreement template, due diligence checklist, and articles of association for incorporating the SPV. So it would actually help fast forward investing into the startups. So basically, value to our members is curate the deal flow. So we have an administrator who reviews it, events and knowledge sharing, networking, syndication, and document and templates. So, and the advantage and disadvantage for angels to now invest in Lithuania is co-investment fund, which provides a very interesting scheme. So for instance, a startup is raising 100,000 euros and is building some sort of innovative technology or scalable technology. So it has to find 3 experienced angels, and the angels can go to the co-investment fund and said, we want to fund this startup. It's legit. We did our due diligence. Can you leverage our investment? And co-investment fund reviews the application, says, yes, I can leverage your investment with between 50 to 90%. So the most common case is 70%, which means that the angels, the free angels, would invest only 10K each, or as they distribute it, and the co-investment fund, out of its 25 million euros, would invest 70,000 euros with a capped return of 6% annual interest. Meaning, let's say 5 years ahead, a startup exits at, 100 million valuation. So the investors say, okay, thank you, co-investment fund, here's your 70,000 plus 6% interest throughout the 5 years, and they distribute everything else amongst themselves. So, however, for the startups, this is also good because they potentially can a bit increase their valuation on these terms and have better negotiating power with investors. But also the process takes a bit longer, and the shareholder agreement has some additional EU bullshit approaches in it. So for instance, that you can get audited, for instance, that you are using European development funds, nothing major. Of course, there are some safeguards, so those safeguards are also transferred. So if you have a very easygoing investor saying that I don't really care or trust you, then these guys will say, okay, you still need drag along, tag along, and all the necessary security rights.
Question.
Yep.
So basically, startup is funded in the early stage with a long-term. So basically, startup was funded in the early stage with the 6% interest, which is like super cool. But in case of the next rounds or the exit, only the early investors get all the upside. Is there a way to share this benefit with the startup somehow, or it's up to the agreement between the investors and the startup?
So the upside, basically, it's only for the investors. So the startup gets its upside from actually an exit. So the founders should not give too much equity to the investors in this case.
And in case of the startup failure, which is an often case, who gets the risk? So basically, the fund gets no return at all.
Yeah.
So risk to benefit, it's a very bad deal to give the startup this money.
For the fund, yes.
Yes.
For the fund, yes. But it's exactly tailored to foster the economy and foster business angel activity as well as startup
So
activity.
basically, the government is willing to lose this money just to build the startup infrastructure in the long term.
I hope that they understand what they're doing. So in the way, when we talk with the managers of this fund and the board of directors of this fund, they say exactly like that this is created. But again, the Ministry of Economy is above it. So when they created this, I hope they had in mind that they will not, in any possible scenario, will get the money back. Because most of them in this early stage will fail, and the 6% will never return. Never cover. Because the outcome will be that maybe they will hit 2 or 3 unicorns, mini-corns or whatever.
And still get 6% return.
And still get 6%, so it's capped. So.
Were there any actual deals structured through this fund yet?
Yes, 3 and 5 pending now.
Thank you.
It's already the second year that it runs, but only the first few deals had happened once Litban was established. However, the first one, of course, was not related to Litban. But they started last year, and this year the first deals came in.
Okay, I'm a startup, so I wasn't going to ask this question, but I have to ask it now. What's the barrier, what's the threshold to become an investor registered in this company, being able to use this resource?
So I cannot answer this like precisely.
What's the procedure to become?
Procedure. I was one of the first ones to actually get accredited by them, and back then the procedure was more complex than it is now. So first of all, you have to prove that you have the know-how. So basically,
as an investor,
yeah. Okay. So if you're first time investing in a startup, you at least should have some entrepreneurial experience to back it up that you will make good investment decisions. But basically, when we had to file our investment strategy, our business plan, how we did the previous investments, what the future investments, what target segments we're sectoring, and why are those targets. So a lot of bullshit around it. But basically, we did already that before, and it was just structuring in a format that they liked. But I know that now they had made it much more simpler, so you can definitely check it on their webpage, and it's in English. So.
Okay, and this fund is the Lithuanian one.
Yes.
So basically, as you told us before, it's mostly interested in the startups somehow established or even better incorporated in Lithuania. But you also mentioned a lot of other Baltic countries like Estonia. Is there a similar structure like that in Estonia? Or is it possible for an Estonian startup, in case they have operations in Lithuania, to apply to go through this procedure?
Again, I don't work with them, so it's difficult for me. I have not seen the case that an Estonian company, I guess they have to prove some benefit towards Lithuania as well. So it might be probably based on assumptions. Maybe the holding company can be in Estonia and the operations company in Lithuania. Then they would invest into Lithuanian entity, but the Lithuanian entity should invest in have Lithuanian employees. So there are many criteria, but again, I guess the people that work there and know how to do that might answer better.
Thanks.
So if you want to become a member or apply, feel free. Applications are always open. And then we would be glad to see you in Lithuania. And then I would like to tell what will happen or what will I do in the upcoming years. So this might be... Yes, you had a question, no? Да, пожалуйста.
Это у вас какая там, что находится? Антакалнио-Гатве 17. У вас там целый комплекс IT-компаний.
Да, это вот этот Сапегос парк.
Сапегос.
Да. Технологический парк — это как хаб такой. Но главный их бизнес — это арендовать помещения для стартапов и делать разные как активити для стартапов вокруг стартапов.
А какие компании белорусские присутствуют у вас в Литве? Вот, Сапегос я точно знаю, там наш хардверная лаборатория, присутствует, как они нам называются? Неважно, да. Есть Сапегас, белорусская компания. А еще знаете белорусы, чтобы были у вас?
Я знаю, есть...
Где?
Game Development, да. Есть, которые делали совмещенный стартап с литовцами. Знаю такую одну компанию.
Еще вопрос. А вот японцы, они являются инвесторами, а в каких областях у них основной интерес IT?
Хороший вопрос. Так, этот японец, он пришел через эстонский Business Angel Network. Он более заинтересован в Прибалтике. Я точно не знаю, сколько он бывает в Японии, сколько в Прибалтике. Но он приезжает в наши ивенты тоже, каждый второй, каждый третий иногда ивент приезжает в литовский посмотреть, что за стартапы, и тоже интересуется. То есть от него получал запросы, что вы знаете про этот стартап, как с ним познакомиться и так далее. Так, он довольно активный.
Это не тот японец, что у нас был когда-то здесь?
Может
Он
быть
же...
тот же самый, может он просто, да, в регионе он. Цутому его имя.
А в какой области его стартапы интересовали? Помните?
Те, про которые он спрашивал, были B2B, business to business.
Ну, понятно. А может, это реал бизнес, наука там или гейм?
Не гейм там был, там стартап, который делает перевод, как не перевод, а меняет, знаете, как в конференциях бывает, это хардвер вот такой подсоединяется, и тогда через наушник можно слушать. Синхронно, да. Так есть литовский стартап, который это меняет, и что не надо этого хардвера, все можно делать через смартфон.
Смотрите, если есть японские инвесторы у вас, то может быть очень интересная тема, которая могла бы объединить ученых и Украины, и Беларуси, и Литвы. Очень актуальная проблема – это атомная электростанция, авария. Значит, смотрите, Киев, он находится на Днепре, с которого загрязнение попадает америций, 241 америций, с Чернобыльской аварии. Значит, сейчас АЭС, оно строится тоже на реке, на Вилии, которая течет в Вильнюс. Понимаете, в Японии, у них Фукусима была авария, и там тоже проблема америция. Сейчас ее нету, она появляется через 50 лет после аварии. Сейчас уже в Украине этот америций, это высокотоксичный очень элемент, он опаснее плутония, альфа-излучения и так далее, но сам по себе америций очень выгодно добывать еще. Он стоит очень больших денег, 1 грамм стоит там больше 1000 евро. И уже очень актуальная проблема сейчас в Украине. Может быть политический интерес в Литве, понимаете, да, о чем я? В Японии это тоже очень актуально. Понятно, что ученые, физики, ядерщики, которые занимаются этой проблемой в Украине, Беларуси, для Беларуси тоже актуально, потому что в южных регионах есть этот америций, они не имеют вообще средств. Они как церковные мыши, бедные. Понимаете, о чем я говорю? Если в Японии какой-то интерес инвесторов мог бы в этом направлении быть, имело бы очень большой, ну, скажем так, результат во всех направлениях. Это экология и в то же время бизнес. Если есть такие возможности, имейте в виду.
Хорошо, но это надо как-то сформулировать.
Ну, дадим, да, контактами меняемся.
Хорошо. Спасибо. So, moving to 70 Ventures. So, again, this is something that the government in acceleration wanted to establish. And what we will do is revenue-focused acceleration for very early stage startups. So basically pre-revenue, pre-seed companies having an idea, we will help them go to market. So this is probably quite cliche. We back ambitious founders, but this is what we want to actually work with, who we want to actually work with. I'm not sure if you know, we have our managing partner that we cannot disclose yet because he's working in one technology company, big technology company in Lithuania as a CEO at the moment. So since he is still there, we cannot disclose him. Then maybe you know Jean-Baptiste. He worked in Practica Capital before and not anymore. He was doing a sales training during the tech meeting. Exactly, yeah. So now he will do what he did in the sales training. Now we will run based on his program the acceleration. So he will do the acceleration of startups and do this. He's from Evergrowth. He's now doing this acceleration for money. We'll do it free of charge and actually invest money into startups. So key achievements, just in a glance, basically as a team, separately we have worked with 34 companies. We have had 6 exits. None of them were actually very substantial. Unfortunately, we failed twice. So we failed with 12 companies. And through JB's method, some of the companies or combined companies have achieved 10 million of revenue within 9 months. Yeah.
That's mainly not ventures. It's mostly Practica Capital and other.
This is where we have worked. So in my experience, this would be Blue Lime Labs. In one of the other partners, he has invested into 12 companies. So it's combined, but partly as Practica Capital, or not even Practica Capital, but Startup LT, because we bought from Practica Capital Startup LT brand. So it's under this. So if anyone would be interested, feel free to visit our webpage. And yes. So the terms are going to be, so mainly if we look here, so how we structure it. Sell it, build it, scale it. So you can apply as a startup to a different phase. And the most early is sell it phase, which is basically a founder, hopefully without a product, with an idea from the industry. So we would be willing to risk and invest 20,000 euros for them to actually go meet the customer and bring some validation, do customer development and validation for those 20,000 euros in order for them to be able to build the product. Then, if they achieve this milestone, we are eager to invest between 40 to 80,000 euros to actually build that product that they have already sold.
But what's the terms? What's the valuation? What equity do you plan to get in exchange for this 20K?
So this is how we imagine basically the valuations. So if you don't do revenue, you're in pre-seed, so probably your approximate valuation is 500,000, but it again depends on the founding team. So how much the founding team has to lose, what jobs they had, what were their salaries. So there's many topics, but as a rule of thumb, it's more or less like this. So, and that's why we don't want to invest very much, not to distort. Like the whole idea is we don't want to take more than 20-25% from the founder. Yep. Would you have any more questions? So I guess basically then that's it if no one has questions. Да. Можем просто пообщаться потом. Хорошо, кого вы видели или можете мне рассказать, потому что я в жизни не видел, чтобы кто-то украл идею. Ну, то есть идеи, все мы, да, но все идеи имеют. То, что если вы никому не сказали, уже может быть в Китае она сделана. То есть копировать, инвесторы не начнут копировать, потому что, я не знаю, как тут, но просто у них свой бизнес, у них все свое. Ну, получается так. Есть фонды, которые говорят, что вот к ним приходят фаундеры, которые очень боятся этого. То есть, если вы считаете, что что-то у вас такое, наверное, можно подписать, но это зависит, если этот фонд захочет так сделать. То есть я в этом не вижу каких-то больших проблем. Да, due diligence — это другой этап. Но то, что если вы покажете презентацию, расскажете, как ваша бизнес-модель работает, что тут копировать? А если его можно так скопировать, так зачем даже инвестировать? Тогда, ну... Да, так тогда... Да. Стадии такие, чаще всего, как вот почему говорят, что этот one-pager, потом pitch-презентация. Реально это все. Сначала надо познакомиться и сказать что-то, чтобы заинтересовало. Чем это отличается от чего-то другого, и чаще всего даже нет, да. А в этом какого-то... Я бы даже сказал то, что я видел. Самое интересное, это когда фаундер приходит, я работал тут, и я нашел вот нишу и проблему вот в этом. Даже не надо говорить solution. Просто я вижу проблему в этом, и эта проблема, я считаю, что ее никто нормально не решает, и я имею экспертиз, потому что я работал в этой индустрии 5, 7, 10 лет. Тогда это, да, тогда сразу хочется говорить. Это не стартап, который приходит, ну, я только закончил школу, и сейчас я делаю стартап, который поменяет мир, это будет второй Uber. Ну, это не то же самое. Так я считаю, что вот если это, тогда они спросят, наверное, что за solution, какое решение. Тут, наверное, тоже всего не надо сразу показывать blueprint, как все работает. Сказать то и то, какая инвестиция нужна, может, это даже не их сфера. Ну, а тогда уже на due diligence, конечно, тогда и будет и legal due diligence, и тогда можно подписывать NDA.
Дело в том, что патенты, они оформляются очень долго, и пока оформится заявка с приоритетом оформляется довольно быстро. После до 6 месяцев, но вообще саморение. Подожди, заявку ты оформляешь быстро, получаешь дату приоритета. Давай пообщаемся тоже.
Хорошо. Спасибо вам.